Hi, my name is Winwin, and today I will start with my first part of my anti-Hwoarang guide. I can't cover the whole character in one session, but I will try my best to go over some key moves in this part, and then I'll continue this guide in the future. Hwoarang as a character is very obnoxious to deal with, especially for new players, because he puts you in this state which Hwoarang players themselves call the blender, where he pressures you, and you don't really seem to find a way out of it. And it's very frustrating because in Tekken you're used to maybe getting hit and then blocking something, but then having your turn and expecting it to work out. But oftentimes if you play like that against Hwoarang, you just get counter hit or he hits you with more stuff and you ask yourself, why is this happening? So, Hwoarang in general is a pressure character. It's hard to play him in a defensive manner. And that's why he has these tools, these tiny moves that are not so apparent, that leave him very plus and leave him at a big frame advantage so that he can keep pressuring you. And I will talk about some of these tools in this tutorial or guide. First thing I want to talk about is his stances, Hwoarang's stances. Let's hop back right in and look at them. So, Hwoarang's stances are his left foot flamingo. In the frame data you will find it under LFS. Then he has his right foot flamingo, which is RFS. Then he has his left foot stance, or basically his neutral stance, when he stands normally like this. And then he has his right foot stance, where he's with his right foot forward, which is called RFF in his frames. So, knowing this, we can put his moves in categories, because he gets access to different moves from different stances. This will already this knowledge will help us in the matchup, because as we continue down this path of this guide, I will talk a lot about where a lot of his moves, in what stance his moves leave him in, because it's very important to option select his options. His left foot stance, or basically his neutral stance, and his left foot flamingo are more versatile when it comes to options, and you could say they're more heavily suited for pressuring with mix-ups. That comes from his right foot flamingo being very limited. His right foot flamingo only has 50 moves if we exclude any transitions to left foot, like this for example. But if he's in this stance, in his right foot flamingo, he is limited to 50 moves. I'm sorry, not 4. That would be crazy. But he has these limited options, so you should keep that in mind. On the other hand, we have his normal neutral stance, in which he has access to all types of options, his punishes and all this stuff. And then we have the right foot forward stance, in which he has access to this power crush that I guess a lot of you already know and already hate, and also access to a variety of other moves that he doesn't have in his neutral stance. So that is very general about his stances. Left foot forward stance and left foot flamingo are more suited for mix-up because they have a longer move list and they have more options. On the other hand, we have right foot flamingo, which is very, very limited in his options. And we have right foot stance, where he gets access to this crazy power crush, and he still has lesser moves than on his left foot stance, but it's not quite as limited as, for example, the right foot flamingo versus the left foot flamingo. Okay, so now the next thing, that was very, very general, but I hope it helped. Now the next thing I want to talk about is his down 3-4. This move is one of Hwoarang's most important low pokes and pressure starters. You might ask yourself, why is that? I'm gonna show you the move real quick so you know what I'm talking about. This is his down 3-4. It comes out of neutral and is a low poke. It's a natural combo. If the low hits you, you can't block the high. You are forced to eat it. So why is this move so important? This move is so important as a pressure starter because it leaves Hwoarang at plus 14 on hit. Plus 14 on hit means that if he does anything like up to 24 frames, it will still trade with your jab. Knowing that, we can just safely assess that if a Hwoarang does down 3-4 and you get hit, you probably shouldn't press any buttons, no attacks. You shouldn't contest his down 3-4. If Hwoarang hits you with down 3-4, it's his turn, 100%. So you might ask yourself, what, do I have to just stand there and eat it? Well, yes, but there is things that you can do. And these things are movement. You're supposed to try and backdash, right? Or sidestep. Why is that? That is because if the Hwoarang continues his pressure and you already started backdashing, you will slowly but surely create a bigger distance between him and you, and so you can get out of his pressure. So let's talk about down 3-4 a little more. Down 3-4, as I said, leaves him at plus 14, which means you can't contest him. But it also leaves him in his right foot flamingo. And as I said before, right foot flamingo has very limited options. And none of them are very dangerous, in the sense that none of them are able to be used as a guaranteed mix-up. What I mean by that is, if Hwoarang does down 3-4 and is forced into right flamingo, his lows aren't very good, which means that you don't really have a reason to duck, and you shouldn't duck in the first place. As I said, try to backdash, try to get distance between you and him. His most dangerous lows is down 3, which is a sweep, which you can get a full combo of, but it is also completely reactable. You can see the sweep. You're not forced to eat it. You can see him starting to spin, and on reaction, block it and launch him for it. So that is one option that is really not valid. Then he has this move, which is very, very quick, as you can see, and it's not reactable. But the harsh truth is that if Hwoarang decides to go for this move, you don't have a lot of options to deal with it. You will have to just take the damage. In the end, it's not that much damage. But most importantly, if this is his decision, then he is creating distance between him and you, because he's launching you far, far away, which basically ends his pressure. You can try to just get up, and then we're almost at neutral. Yes, you have get up frames, but it's very close to. You have definitely more options than before when you got hit by down 3-4 to begin with. So we talked about down 3-4, and then let's talk about some mid options out of down 3-4. This, for example, is a launching mid that is -10, very powerful. -10 is basically nothing, and you can't contest it at all. You can't even sidestep it, because plus 14 is too many plus frames to even try and sidestep it. That is one mid option. Then he has another mid option, which would be this kick, which knocks you down, but again, it creates distance. And he has a couple of high options, but really this concludes his most dangerous options out of right foot forward, because as I said, he only has 15. So really what you should do, you get hit by down 3-4, you start backdashing and try to create distance. Never duck. Don't duck, because if you duck, you might get launched and then it hurts. But if you don't duck, what's the worst case? You get hit by this? The only reason to duck would be if you see this sweep on reaction. Okay, so let's assume you took my advice and you get hit by down 3-4, and you try to create distance. On this occasion, we get to the second move I want to talk about, which is his jab out of flamingo. It's a tool that a lot of Hwoarangs use very, very often, and I'm gonna explain why in a second. But first, I'm gonna show you the move so you know which move I'm talking about. It's this little jab. I'm talking exactly about this little jab, this little hit. Why is this jab so important, you may ask? Well, first of all, it's his fastest option out of flamingo besides his counter hit 4-4-4. But what it does for Hwoarang players is it gets them out of flamingo because he hits the jab and then he's standing, and it provides them with +5 frames on block, which is very, very good. If the Hwoarang has +5 frames, he can try and counter hit you with all kinds of craziness. Let me show you an example. He goes this into these moves. Like, let's look at this string in particular. Down 3-4, you don't press a button. You get jabbed on block, and then you try to jab into it after his jab, and you get countered. Now, if you don't know his frames, you might ask yourself, man, why is this happening? Didn't I just block a jab? How am I getting countered like this? Now you know, he's +5 after the jab, which means if you try to contest it, there's a bunch of ways you can get hit. So again, you might ask, what do I just have to take it? Is this how this matchup goes? No. There's pretty much 2 occasions, and these 2 occasions are his Hwoarang is in left flamingo, anti-jabs, which would be this, which leaves him in neutral stance, as you can see, or Hwoarang is in right foot flamingo, anti-jabs, which leaves him in right foot forward stance. I've alluded to it before that in right foot forward stance, Hwoarang doesn't have as many options. He still has a lot of them, but not compared to his left foot forward stance. So one way to contest this quick jab out of his right foot flamingo is to down jab after the jab. This covers a lot of options, a huge variety of Hwoarang options. Not all of them, of course, but it is a contest that you can go for sometimes. It's important that you mix it up though, because if your option is to down jab after this, then Hwoarang, if he adapts, he can try to counterplay you. Let me show you an example. Let's do down 3-4, jab. Let's do exactly what I did before. He goes down 3-4, jab, I down jab, I'm out. Another example with a mid would be better. Let's see if our down jab strategy even works against this homing mid. Jab, down jab. Even if the jab hits me, I could down jab him. But as I said before, Hwoarang does have options to beat it. It's not an unbeatable down jab or anything like that. But it's definitely an option that you have to keep in mind. For example, let's show an example of how Hwoarangs can beat the down jab. Something like... oh, wait. That was a misinput. Something like this would probably beat the down jab. Let's take a look at it. Let's make him play it. Ta, ta. And I get hit, even if I try to down jab, as you can see in the command history. So that is definitely something you need to keep in mind. Down jab after his flamingo jab is an option that you can use from time to time, but mix it up. Because if you don't mix it up, you will get fucked up, and we don't want that. What other options do you have against his jab out of flamingo? Well, let's play the string again. What if we just try to backdash, like before? You know when I said after down 3-4, just try to backdash? We create enough distance that maybe his options would start woofing. And as you can see already in that example, it worked out. But let's try the homing move, even though it has a lot more range. Let's go for this. Let's see if we can out backdash this. Okay, we can't. But what happens? We stay safe. 100% safe. So even if the Hwoarang does this type of string and we backdash, we stay 100% safe. And he ends his pressure. Because one thing about the Hwoarang that is also important to note is you want him to use homing moves. Because as soon as Hwoarang uses a homing move, he's at minus. And he's at such big minus frames that you can start your own pressure. Let's look at another example where backdashing could get us out. So let's let him play the string. One quick backdash after his jab, and I'm out of his pressure. Obviously this has to be timed right, you have to be very sharp. But if you do it correctly, you're out. Just down 3-4, jab, you backdash, you punish him, and you're good. You're good to go. So keep that in mind. After his flamingo jab, backdashing is a very good option. In fact, backdashing is a very good option against Hwoarang in almost any case. But if you are unable to backdash for whatever reason, or you don't feel confident in your backdashes, again, down jab could help you out. But use it sparingly. That is important. So one more thing I wanted to talk about was sidestepping. Sidestepping after his one jab out of flamingo. And I'm gonna just show you an example where sidestepping can get you out of his pressure yet again. I talked about down jab already and backdashing, how that can avoid certain options. And sidestepping as well can avoid certain options that have longer range and are quick. Now let's play this option. I recorded it already. And if I sidestep after his one jab out of flamingo, you can see I can avoid his next down 3-4, escape his pressure, and then fuck him up in the back. There is a bunch of situations like this. And in that sense, you should take Hwoarang's jab out of flamingo as a red flag in general. Because as you can see, down jab can beat a lot of options out of his jab. Sidestep can beat a lot of options, or at least I showed you one, but there is a bunch more which I will dive into further on in my tutorials. Sidestep can beat a bunch of options. And then we also had backdash, which can also beat a bunch of options. So when you keep these three options in mind, now the matchups becomes much more negative mind game for the Hwoarang. And that's why people claim that Hwoarang is so risky. Because if Hwoarang decides to go for the string we just recorded, to continue his pressure, he is resorting to another down 3-4, which I, when I sidestep, am about to launch. So he would have gained some pressure, some plus frames, and some damage by hitting that down 3-4, while I, by doing a sidewalk, I gain a full launcher in the back, or maybe even more crazy stuff. So now let's pretend like the Hwoarang, okay, he knows I sidestepped, I launched him for it, you know, he learned, he's smarter, he goes for a new option. What does he go for? He goes for a homing move. Okay, fine. Hwoarang goes for a homing move. What do we do now? Same pressure string, I down jab. Okay, so I interrupted his pressure with down jab. That's a problem. He's at minus again. He needs to start all over and it's my turn now to pressure him. Okay, he got even smarter. Now he thinks, I got him. He is gonna down jab like a dumbass. But then, all of a sudden, I decide to backdash. And he gets launched. Or I decide to sidestep again. And he gets launched. or I decide to just not down jab, do anything else. So you see, it's kind of a mix-up again. He has to make a decision. After this jab out of Flamingo, the Hwoarang player has to make a decision how to continue his pressure. And you have to be very aware of this mix-up, because it's a negative mix-up for him. Options like think about your options, which would be sidestepping, backdashing, down jabbing, or like contesting. These are your options, and you have to take a smart choice of which one you want to go for. And remember that if you guess right, you get a launch. If he guesses right, maybe you still block and still end this pressure. For example, if he does the homing move and you don't down jab, but you just try to backdash, okay, his pressure is over. It's still good for you. But he only gets some damage for guessing right. So that concludes the first part of my anti-Hwoarang guide. I hope you learned something. I hope you got better at the matchup by watching this video. Hopefully you'll stick around for the future guides that I'm going to do. And I plan to do a lot more content on this channel. I'm also going to do online matches probably. But that will be all in the future. And I hope that you leave a sub to this channel so that you can see my content in the future. Anyway, thanks for watching and see you.